Yeah.
I call to order the April 9th, 2018 Latrobe City Council meeting. Please.
Mayor Wolford, we're going to do
we're doing that. I'm sorry. We're doing the public hearing first. Sorry about that. First, we're going to have the public hearing.
Might I suggest for a format for this hearing that will allow the applicant to present their application to council, and then we can have council can provide any questions, comments, recommendations that they may have, and then we can allow the public to speak.
That sounds good to me. Thank you. Sir?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mark Kozar. I'm a lawyer with the law firm of Flaherty & O'Hara. I always like to plug our firm when I get an opportunity like this. Our sole area of practice is liquor law and liquor licensing. We do it throughout the state and across the country. This evening I'm here on behalf of Sheets Inc. With me is Peg Falk and Virginia Haslett from Sheets. We're here to request that Latrobe approve a resolution permitting the intermunicipal transfer of a license from outside the city to within it pursuant to the revised liquor code, Title 47, Section 461B3, for use at the Sheets store at 2853 Ligonier Street. As you probably know, the liquor code now permits the PLCB to approve the transfer of a license from any municipality in Westmoreland County to any other municipality in Westmoreland County, so long as you, the receiving municipality, approves that transfer via resolution or ordinance. Part of the reason we're here tonight has to do with some significant changes to the liquor code that went into effect in August of 2016 by way of Act 39. The liquor code was rewritten by the legislature. They were the biggest changes to the liquor code since the liquor code was written in 1934. And part of that rewriting of the liquor code, the legislature restated the purpose of the liquor code. And it's worth me reading a short section from that so that you get a feel for why the liquor code was amended by Act 39. It is the purpose of this act to reform the system by which alcohol is dispensed and controlled within this Commonwealth, to reflect changes in the marketplace while continuing to protect the welfare, health, peace, and morals of the citizens, and to provide for the operation of a retail system that promotes competition and convenience. Now, Act 39 made some changes, tons of changes to the liquor code. The two changes that are significant for our purposes here tonight, the first has to do with what was called the liquid fuels prohibition. Prior to Act 39, there was a section of the liquor code that said that you couldn't sell alcohol at the same place, property, or location as the sale of liquid fuels, i.e. gasoline. Now, the PLCB interpreted that to mean that so long as you didn't store gasoline on licensed premises, nor could you pay for gasoline on licensed premises, they would issue a license to that location. A trade group called the Malt Beverage Distributors Association didn't care for that interpretation and took the PLCB to court. They lost at the Common Pleas Court. They lost at the Commonwealth Court. The case was finally appealed to the State Supreme Court. And while it was pending at the State Supreme Court, Act 39 was passed by the legislature. Therein, the legislature rewrote the liquid fuels prohibition to reflect the PLCB's prior interpretation of the liquid fuels prohibition, so that, in other words, as long as you don't pay for gas on licensed premises or store gas on licensed premises, the PLCB, if you otherwise qualify for a restaurant liquor license, the PLCB will grant that license. The second change in Act 39 had to do with the creation of what are called wine expanded permits, WEPs. Wine expanded permits permit restaurant licensees and hotel licensees to sell up to 4 bottles of wine, unopened bottles of wine to go. Now, in order for you to make a decision on our request by Sheets, let me just give you a little background on Sheets. Sheets was founded in 1952 with a single store in Altoona. Sheets has grown to over 600 stores in 6 states. 256 of these stores sell beer, including 54 here in Pennsylvania. 9 other locations have been approved by the PLCB that are not yet selling beer, and there are 22 applications pending before the PLCB. As you know, Sheetz has a store down here on Ligonier Avenue. This store is scheduled for a remodel that will add a seating area for 30. You can see from the floor plans, there'll be a bump out in the front of the store that will eliminate some of the outdoor seating and provide for seating for 30 indoors. By adding seating for 30, that store will qualify under the liquor code for a restaurant liquor license. Now, what we're asking for here is nothing new or unusual. Over the past 10 years, the PLCB has approved restaurant liquor licenses for more than 700 grocery store and convenience stores across the state. Sheetz plans to sell beer at this store. All the beer will be kept in what's called a beer cave. It'll be a cooler. That'll be the only place the beer will be. It's not going to be cases of beer all over the store. That's the only place the beer will be. They'll carry approximately 150 different kinds of beer, including national brands and many craft beers. Beer will be sold in either 6-packs or 12-packs. Legally, the maximum you can sell at one purchase is 192 fluid ounces, which works out to 2 6-packs of 16-ounce beers. They'll offer beers for single cans of beer for on-premise consumption. However, this is something that Sheetz really does reluctantly, and the reason they have to do that is back in 2005, we actually lost the case at the state Supreme Court on a Altoona store, the very first store we licensed, where we essentially said we're only going to sell beer to go. Again, our friends at the Malt Beverage Distributors Association said, no, you have to sell beer for on-premise consumption. And the Supreme Court agreed with them on that case. So we carry a minimum number of beers for on-premise consumption. Now, the on-premise consumption is limited to 2 beers per person per day, and it also requires a purchase of food. These are internal Sheetz policies. In addition to that, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here, in addition to that, it's highly unusual that people buy beer for on-premise consumption. It's so unusual that Sheetz actually makes a record of it. If somebody buys beer and goes into the seating area, they make a record of when that person bought the beer and they went into the seating area, and then either through the video cameras or personally they walk through to monitor that person to make sure that they are drinking the beer and not somebody else, and making sure that everything's okay. Although the store is going to be open 24/7, the beer sales will be limited from 7 a.m. until the beer cave is locked at 1:45 a.m. Monday through Saturdays. Sunday beer sales will start at 9 a.m. And go to 1:45. Sheetz has a comprehensive alcohol responsible management program in place. First, all Sheetz employees will receive the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement created RAMP training. And RAMP stands for Responsible Alcohol Management Program. This program teaches people how to recognize fake IDs, recognize visibly intoxicated persons, recognize pass-off situations where someone who is 21 might be trying to buy beer for people that are under 21. Second, all Sheetz restaurant employees will receive TIPS training, and that stands for Training for Intervention Procedures. That's a nationally recognized responsible alcohol management program that was recently recognized by the PLCB as an alternative training to the RAMP training. Third, Sheetz has a 100% carding policy. Everybody gets carded via a card scanner. The cash registers will not unlock to accept the SKU of the beer unless a card is scanned and it is a legitimate card. And fake cards will show up as no sales. In addition, Sheetz has another internal policy with respect to possible pass-offs. If 2 or 3 people approach the cash register with a 6-pack of beer, they card everybody in the group. If anyone in the group is not 21, they reject the sale, and they make a report, internal report of that attempted sale. In addition to the employee training, Sheetz currently has in the neighborhood of 30 security cameras at that store. They will be adding more cameras, obviously, for the seating area and inside the beer cave. With the exception of the restrooms, every inch of the interior of the store is covered by security cameras. In addition, there are 15 exterior security cameras. These cameras are, in addition to be monitored on site, are monitored by Sheetz Security Operations Center, SOC. Each employee at the Sheetz has a lantern. They can press a button on that lantern, and immediately somebody from SOC will bring the camera up on the screen that corresponds to that person's lantern and be able to speak to that person and say, what's the problem, what's the issue, and talk them through minor issues. And if the type of issue needs police intervention, it's the SOC that would actually call the police. They make the determination whether the situation warrants a call to the police. With respect to the security cameras and SOC, their store cameras store the video images for up to 7 years. And Sheetz routinely provides local police departments with video in the event of criminal activity on their premises or near their premises that are caught on camera. This is not a place where people are going to come to hang out and drink. There's a 2-beer minimum, or maximum, I should say, with the purchase of food. There's no video games, there's no smoking, there's no pool tables, and there's no jukeboxes, all the types of things that keep people in a bar drinking. It will be, however, a well-lit, safe, and secure place where customers can purchase prepared foods and a 6-pack of beer or a bottle of wine. Sheetz, as a responsible owner, has made a significant investment in Latrobe. That investment will be protected by responsible management and well-trained employees. And for these reasons, we would ask that you pass a resolution permitting the transfer of the license into the city of Latrobe for use by Sheetz. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, sir. What does SOC stand for?
Security Operations Center.
Okay.
And where is that located, sir?
It's in Altoona.
So if my understanding is correct, a person sitting in Altoona in a safe environment will make the decision whether to call the police or not, and not the person who might be right at the scene of a potential incident? Is that my understanding?
These people are security professionals that are sitting there monitoring screens for all 600 stores. They can monitor the screen, every camera in all 600 stores. They're security professionals. They talk to the person on the ground, saying, what's your issue? Let's try to resolve it like this. Let's try to resolve it like that. Obviously, if it's a retail theft, they immediately call the police.
Would they be possible for them, if they're observing these cameras, they could actually see something happening that the clerks or the people working in the store don't see?
That's a possibility too. They would, in that case, they would alert the store.
No. I was going to ask counsel if you had any questions.
Well, I have a bunch of
Go ahead.
and this is just for clarification. Do I understand correctly there will be no sales between 1:45 a.m. and
7 a.m.
7 a.m. in the morning?
That is correct.
Every day of the week?
That is correct. Except for Sundays. Sunday sales statutorily can't start till 9 a.m. So Sunday would be 9 a.m. until 9 a.m.
But basically, the nighttime hours, there's not going to be any sales?
That's correct.
You indicated that you keep records of different matters. Do you, let me back up. You indicated you had 54 stores.
That is correct.
When was the first sale of beer, wine at any, whatever the store was?
2004.
2004. So you've had experience now from 2004 to the present.
Well, let me back up. In addition, they've been licensed for 30 years in other states.
Okay.
They have 256 stores firm-wide or system-wide that hold liquor licenses. 54 of those are in Pennsylvania. So there's 200 stores in other states that have had liquor licenses for many, many years.
And there are how many in Westmoreland County? 2, did I understand? In Westmoreland County, how many sell liquor and beer?
I am aware of the Murraysville store because I stop there all the time.
Are there 2 in North Huntington, or is North Huntington going through the application process?
It's going through the application process right now. Yeah, and you're correct, there are 2 locations in North Huntington that are liquor licensed.
Do you also keep records of those times, no matter how few, where the police may have been called to the store, not for retail theft, but I'm saying directly related to the sale of alcohol?
The SOC keeps records of every police call made to local police department, regardless of what, it could be a vagrant standing out in the parking lot bothering people. SOC makes a record of that call to the police.
But he also makes a record and identifies what the purpose of that call was before?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
It's not just, hey, police, come up here, we've got a problem. It's, hey, police, this is our problem. Can you please help us out?
okay. What I'm trying to find out, past practice often is a good indicator of the future. And I'm just wondering, with the store in Murraysville, for example, how long has it been open? How many incidences have the police had to come there for a liquor or sale-related issue?
Well, local police don't enforce like sales to minors or sales to visibly intoxicated people. That's enforced by the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement. And since 2004, there has been 1 citation. That was for sale to minor, and that was for the store in Altoona. It happened in 2007. And actually, that sale to the minor, in a way, turned things around, because the chiefs came to us and said, hey, we had a sale to the minor. How can we avoid this in the future? And our legal advice to them at that time was, use a card scanner and card 100% of your people that try to buy alcohol. Since that time, they have not had any citations for sales to minors. They've never had a citation for sales to a visibly intoxicated person. And we're talking about, with 54 stores, hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of sales of beer and wine.
How about such things as rowdiness or fighting or things of like that nature? I think the greatest concern people have is at that time of night, somebody comes to a store visibly intoxicated, is refused and goes haywire, and decides he wants to fight everybody, something along those lines. But you're saying that, to your knowledge, there's been no incidences of that type?
I am not aware, and quite frankly, they would tell me about something like that.
And that could happen now, even if you're not selling alcohol at the store. Someone came visibly intoxicated just to get food, right?
They didn't like how their hot dog was made.
Yeah. Anything else? Anyone else?
Yeah, could you just clarify one more time for me, in case I missed it? So if somebody buys a 6-pack, walks out of the store with it, and opens it at their car while they're pumping gas, your security operations is going to flag that?
Security cameras cover all the pumps, so anything that happens at the pumps is captured on security camera. And if that is noted, somebody will go out there and say, hey, listen, you can't be drinking beer out here at the pumps. You can't. That's another thing I forgot to bring up. Although there's some outdoor seating, Sheetz doesn't permit consumption of alcohol in your outdoor seatings at any of their stores.
Thank you.
Or on their property for that matter.
So what's to preclude someone from buying a 6-pack and then just going into the restaurant and drinking the 6-pack? Would you just tell them to leave?
We would tell them that they could, if they buy some food, they could drink 2 of those 6 beers.
Okay. Anyone else on council have any questions before we open it up to the public?
I'm still a little confused as to why we have to go outside of the city to get a license. Why we can't use one from inside the city.
As far as I know, there are none available in the city. And with respect to this particular license, this license is coming from Unity Township. It was owned by a franchisee of Pizza Hut called Aurora Huts. Aurora Huts was one of the largest franchisees of Pizza Hut for a number of years, and they started getting out of the business. And as they started getting out of the business, they started selling their licenses in blocks. And actually, Sheetz bought a block of Aurora Hut's licenses, and one of the ones they purchased was in Unity Township. Quite frankly, the first thing we do as a law firm for a client like Sheetz is they tell us what municipality they want to go into. We check that municipality out to see if there's a license available, because quite frankly, it saves them the time and the money to pay me to come to a hearing like this.
Do you know what the price was for that license transfer that they bought?
They didn't break the number. They didn't break each license down individually. It was a lump sum, but it was a very high figure.
Okay, we'll open it up to the public. If the public has any comments they would like to make, please go to the microphone. Yes, Chief. Could you please identify yourself for the court reporter?
Chief James Bumar, B-U-M-A-R.
B-U?
B.
B.
Boyd,
Thank you.
903 Jefferson Street, Latrobe, Pennsylvania. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I want to address the council, and I want to talk to you about this proposition of Sheetz's. First of all, I'd like to start on and say, hey, this isn't a real fight I need to be in. I'm not going to be here by the time they even start selling the beer. However, as the chief law enforcement officer of this community, I feel it's my responsibility and my duty to come up here and tell you about how I feel about the police response and about the problems that we may encounter. I'll be as brief as possible, but I want to address 4 areas to the council. Will the sale of alcoholic beverages benefit in any way the quality of life in the city? Will the sale of alcoholic beverages in any way foster or further a positive and safe environment for residents, the police, and other emergency entities in the city? Will the sale of alcoholic beverage contribute to further criminal activity in the city? Will the sale of alcoholic beverage increase the number of police incidents and/or accidents in the city? Talk to you a little bit about number 1. In an incident of concern or conflict, when you add alcohol, the incident becomes more volatile and unsafe for all involved. Excessive pressures and risks will be assumed by non-alcoholic purchasing patrons and workers of the Sheetz store. On the second one, I would like to address, when responding to incidents where alcoholic beverage is involved, emergency responders have a much more difficult task of maintaining, controlling, or rendering aid. Furthermore, Sheetz is a convenience store, not a bar. Your consumers are not just patrons there to purchase and consume alcoholic beverages. You have patrons such as children or responsible adults going to work and may encounter intoxicated individuals. The third area, incidents of public drunkenness, underage drinking, disorderly conduct, and driving under the influence are sure to trend upward. We must also look at the fact of the opioid problem. Drug addicts will do anything for money. It is not beneath them to hang outside of the Sheetz store or in close proximity and purchase beer for underage consumers. There will be incidents of legal-aged individuals buying beer for underage drinkers for the money they can earn doing so. The number of police calls will increase relating to the crimes I mentioned prior. From 2015 to 2017, we answered 147 complaints at Sheetz's. That's considered a high call response area. and that's without alcohol. Adding sales of alcoholic beverages will shortly strain police resources. The geographical area of Sheetz is also a concern. Sheetz is right on the border of our jurisdiction. When a call comes in, and both officers, who are the only two working on a midnight shift, are tied up with an intoxicated or disorderly individual at Sheetz, and a second call comes in, say the hospital, you're talking extended time to respond. The officers are also given the responsibility of the disposition of this intoxicated person. If we go to that incident and we arrest someone for public drunkenness, disorderly conduct, or any of those where we have to keep the peace and take them away from the scene, we either have to lock them up and babysit them, and I will say babysit, for the rest of the night until they sober up, or till someone responsible can come and pick them up. That takes an officer off the street and leaves one officer susceptible to what goes on out there. Try calling somebody in the middle of the night to come get their drunken son or daughter or husband or wife. Very difficult. Also, the jurisdiction borders on a state route. That gives more opportunity for transient traffic and those causing disturbances of crimes to easily flee and avoid arrest. In closing, I would like to advise council that the city already has 5 establishments within our jurisdiction with a liquor license, a restaurant style type that Sheetz is applying for. The county, their quota is 1 license per 3,000 residents. Gaming Sheetz would add another license, which would be 6, with more than double the county quota. That decision is solely up to you. As Sheetz's solicitor said, it is possible for you to okay the transfer of the license. I do wish you would consider that the license is coming from another municipality and that we already have maxed out on our quota. Also, I'm concerned with the 2 adult girl group homes that are right across the street. The Susan home and the Margaret home. I'd like to ask council if the gains of 1/2 of the $700 annual renewal fee for a liquor license fee is worth the impending problems. It is very important in law enforcement to be proactive in these types of situations. Avoiding potential problems or even tragedy is a much better method in which to ensure public safety and to be reactive after an impending incident occurs. Please consider what I've said this evening for the safety of our community and our officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Kumar. Question? Concern?
I'm going to find a question out. Mr. Kozar, am I correct? Did I hear you correctly?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm going to ask this question. Would it be possible to get some of the locations, the 54 that are in Pennsylvania? I'm sure a telephone call to their police chief would shed great light on what may or may not have happened at those places. Maybe our fears are not well-founded. Maybe they are well-founded, but perhaps a conversation with the police chief might be helpful. Would that be a difficult thing?
Oh, well, Murraysville has a store.
Well, we know that one, but I don't know the others.
Yeah, I'd be happy to give you a list of locations. Just to address what your outgoing chief had to say, there's a couple of inaccuracies that I'd like to correct. One has to do with, you talked about the quota. There is now a county quota on liquor licenses. If the county is over the quota, that means the PLCB won't issue any new licenses. So that if you want to buy a license, you have to go out on the open market and can buy a license in the county and then move it to the municipality you want to, as we're doing here. The only time that a local quota comes into effect, and he's correct, the local quota is one license for every 3,000 people. That's really not a quota in essence. The only way it's a quota is it determines whether or not you have to have an intermunicipal transfer hearing. If your quota were 2 and you only had 1 license, we could move a license in without having an intermunicipal transfer hearing. If your quota was 2 and you had 2 licenses, then we would have to have a hearing to move a license in. I just wanted to straighten that up. It sounded a little confused when he was saying that. With all due respect to the outgoing chief, much of what he said was speculation. We've heard the same speculation in a number of different municipalities. It hasn't panned out. Sheetz is a good operator. People don't get drunk at Sheetz. There's a 2-beer limit, which requires the purchase of food. Not a whole lot of people I know that are going to get drunk on two beers and start a fight or start a riot. We believe that, and quite frankly, as I said before, we'd rather not sell beer for on-premise consumption. 99.9% of the beer sold is in 6-packs to go. So the fact that he thinks that there's going to be all kind of drunken disturbances at Sheetz, people getting drunk there, that just simply isn't going to happen. That's not their business plan, that's not their business model, and they do everything in their power to discourage on-premise consumption. They don't have happy hours, they don't have daily drink specials, they have a 2-beer limit for the purchase of food. That's all I have.
Does anyone in the audience, would anyone in the audience like to say anything?
Yes.
Sir, if you would go to the microphone and state your name, please, so that the stenographer can get it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mark Studniak, Unity Township resident.
Can you spell your last name?
Yes, Stunja.
Thank you.
Basically, I'm a former Labatt's USA Rolling Rock employee, outside sales. Served the community for 10 years. Great community, great restaurants, great people. One thing I'd like to bring to your attention is our license is a restaurant license. It's a privilege to get one, not a right. Number 2, I believe a license can be very beneficial for a community or bring some economic hardship to a community. I'm going to ask you all a question. If you think of your favorite restaurant, sub shop, pizza place, and you were going to look at bringing that license to Latrobe, I wouldn't be speaking here today. Okay. Basically, I have more issues with convenience stores and grocery stores getting licenses. A lot of the issues were talked about today, and I wish we would have some speakers from SAD or MAD here today. Unfortunately, none showed up. Basically, I was a little concerned over the minor issue. Okay, minors do attend or go to Sheetz and John Eagles. They're exposed to those areas. If they're not with a parent or guardian, who's monitoring where they go? Are they in the beer cave? Are they over on the displays? But obviously, Mark addressed that issue earlier. And after hours, Sheetz are open 24 hours a day. They did address that. We locked down the beer so that no beer can be touched. It's all in a locked-in area. But my big question is when minors do go in to purchase, cigarettes can't be sold to minors. They're locked behind the counter. So what's going to prohibit a parent going over, buying a loaf of bread or doing an MTO? Where is their kids located? Are they over playing in the beer section? Do they run into the beer cooler? Are they going to be able to touch it? The other question I had is you have a beer cooler section next to the pop, next to the chips, and all that, those areas there. Okay, and also the question is, are kids permitted to go over to the sitting, eating area, and there's another table there with adults drinking beer? Is that permitted, or is there 2 separate sections, one for kids eating and one's for adults? I don't know, I can't answer that question. The other question I have is, where do kids go after school? Or where do kids go after a sporting event at night? They go to Sheetz. they do go there. It's like a convenience store, but it's also like a fast food place that they go eat in MTOs, and they're going to be exposed. And like the chief said, any more out there, what it's going to take for, someone who's still doing crack, opioids, or anything, to purchase a beer, meet them outside, give them the product later on. I think the biggest issue that we look at is, would you let a kid go into a bar if he's 16 years old to eat alone? Same license, same type of setting, but one's a bar, the other one's a convenience store or a grocery store. So that was my biggest concern, is the exposure to the youth that are out there that come up to the sheets. No one is 21 years old. No one's going into everybody's going to an establishment, but you're permitting an underage person to go into a licensed account without a guardian or someone that's 21 or 25 years old or whatever. Mark might have some rebuttals on it. I might be clear for what I'm trying to convey to you. I'm a little bit nervous, obviously, but hopefully you'll listen to what I've had to say today. And I have this getting engaged in the Latrobe community anymore. It's just more concerns over the chief coming here today and met him once, but other than that, really don't know. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jim? Oh, you want to...
Let him reply first.
As a threshold matter, I believe this gentleman said he was from Unity Township.
Yes, sir.
Section 461B3 of the Liquor Code limits individuals who can speak at intermunicipal transfer hearings to individuals residing in the municipality. I would ask that you ignore his testimony. But seeing that you heard it already, it's hard to ignore it. So let me address a few issues. He doesn't like seeing beer in Giant Eagles or Sheetz or other places similar to that. That's exactly why the legislature enacted Act 39 in 2016, was to promote competition and convenience in an evolving marketplace. So I appreciate that he's old school. He wants to keep the system the way it was. You have to go to a bar, an old dingy bar, to buy a six-pack, or go to a distributor to buy a case of beer. He talked about children going into Sheetz. Well, there's signage all over the beer cave that says you must be 21 to enter. There is a security camera over the door to the beer cave, a security camera inside the beer cave. Children are not permitted in there and will be escorted out if they even try to go in. And he talked about people sitting and eating some food and having a beer. That happens in all the restaurants around, Olive Garden, Red Lobster. People are having a glass of wine, having a cocktail with their food, and there's children walking around. There's children sitting at the tables. That's nothing unusual. You talk about kids going there. It's nothing more than a kid going to a pizza shop that sells beer to go. You walk in and buy a couple slices, the kid looks over and sees a cooler full of beer. Well, he's going to see a beer cave, but see very little beer because you can't see through all the signage on it that says you must be 21 to get in. That's all I have.
Mark, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Mark,
sorry.
while you're up there, these photos show the wine, but the wine is not inside the beer cave. The wine's going to be outside.
The wine is on a wine rack right by the cash registers.
Hold on one second, Chief. Let Mr. Miller speak, and then I'll let you go ahead, okay?
James Miller, 127 East 4th Avenue in Latrobe. She's a pretty good company, and they stand to lose an awful lot if violations are noted by the Liquor Control Board, and they stand to lose their licenses. Sheetz had a place in Latrobe which I don't know if they tore it down or what, but they built a new place, spent a lot of money. We have a lot of employees there that pay wage taxes to Latrobe. We have real estate taxes that we receive from Sheetz. And I think the tax revenue is pretty good. With only the sale of 2 beers, I don't think that's a big deal. Sheetz is a operating company in the state of Pennsylvania. And I know, I read in the paper that the chief was concerned about the traffic problems in that area. I think a lot of those traffic areas do exist right now. However, I think most of them exist as a result of the bridge closing. And you won't have the traffic problems that they now have once that bridge is completed. You know, Sheetz is a pretty big company. They can very easily close down their store in Latrobe, move 1 mile towards Youngstown and buy some property and pay the taxes to Unity Township. The representative from Unity Township, I'm sure would be happy because his taxes are so low. Our taxes are much higher than Unity Township, and Unity Township would probably welcome the tax from the property of a Sheetz if they decided to move. And big companies just move all the time because they'll have more traffic from Route 30 than we have on Lincoln Road or Ligonier Street to that area. So the state regulates this very heavily, and they require the training of the employees. And I feel that, you know, the old way of looking at things is it's time to have sales in places instead of strictly at the state source where the wages are somewhat higher for all Pennsylvania citizens. Thank you very much. I hope that you consider this and approve the measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Chief?
I just wanted to clear something up for the record. Mr. Solicitor did have a much more eloquent way of putting it. He does it all the time. This is my first one. I tried to do the best I could. But the bottom line is the license coming from outside our jurisdiction is up to you. It's your decision. Secondly, he also noted about speculation. Of course it's speculation. They're not there yet. I'm not speculating to the high call volume area that Sheetz has become. And I also am not being speculative of the sandwich saloon in the 1980s, which we were inundated with calls. They eventually were shut down. They were next to Sheetz's. So I do have some experience in dealing with sales of that nature. I'm not saying that Sheetz is selling alcohol is going to make raging drunks come out through the front door and carry on in the parking lot. However, it is a draw, and there are a lot of intoxicated people at later hours out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Sir, did you want to say something?
I was going to ask Mark if I could just ask a question, or if you object, I have no problem.
Well, might as well.
Okay.
Might as well let it all out.
We're pretty open here.
Yeah,
So
no, you know what, he's doing great well for...
We're pretty neighborly, and
Yeah, no, the only thing I wanted to bring to, before you make a decision was,
Here he says this Sheetz is only going to have a barricade. Most Sheetz have glass doors with symbols on the outside before you go in a barricade. All I'm going to ask you to do is, you asked earlier to check out a few stores. Burrisville, Blairsville. You'll see what exactly it will look like. I mean, they're fantastic stores. I'm a little more against that the minors are able to go into a Sheetz market, but you don't permit a minor to go into a bar alone. And that's where I have a hard time understanding. I understand the Pizza Hut rule. That was where minors could go in, but there was no visible beer. And eat pizza, have a great time. If you're 21, you could get a pitcher of beer or whatever, but you cannot have a minor at your table unless you had a guardian with you. Mark could better address that issue than what I can. He's an expert in that category. I'm not. But basically, beer distributors are now allowed to sell six-packs, singles, so forth, too. besides John Eagle. It's not only case beer, but other people in the market do sell it. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't have other licensed accounts here in the market, because it's really their businesses I'm trying to protect too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on council have anything to say?
I just have a question for Zach.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to ask him a legal question, but I want to, go ahead.
Well, it's a legal question. Do you want me to wait?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. I just wanted to, a couple things. I appreciate everyone's comments. I think it's a serious thing for us to consider, and we take it seriously. Just for the record, I wasn't a big fan of the law that allowed the sale of alcohol in convenience stores, gas stations, and things like that. But that's the state legislator, and that's the law. Sheetz is and always has been a wonderful business in our town, a very good neighbor, very responsible. There's nothing that leads me to believe that, people, I just can't see people coming. I can't see a whole lot changing. I mean, if people are out drinking all night, and they want to go get something to eat after 2 o'clock, they're going to do it at Sheetz, whether or not they're selling alcohol or not. My guess is it's probably going to be a little more expensive to buy 2 cans of beer at Sheetz as it would be if you're sitting at a club or something like that, where people tend to frequent before they're going home. So I personally don't see that it's going to be that big of a deal, especially being that you have a history in other municipalities that haven't seen major problems from the little bit of research that I did. And thirdly, I'm just not a big fan personally of trying to tell businesses how to run their businesses. They have to be competitive, and as a community, I think we need to encourage businesses to move into our community and to help them be successful. So they're competing with other places in the city that sell food and beer, restaurants and other types of establishments. So the only issue here really is the fact that there's no vacant or open license here in Latrobe, or we wouldn't even be here. So I'm for it, and I want to thank the Sheetz folks for coming in, and thank you for being the good neighbors and the good and responsible owners that you are in our community. And then I wanted to ask Zach to weigh in on his legal opinion, but unless you wanted to ask him something else.
It's really just a yes or no question. If we were to approve this ordinance, resolution, is it out of our hands then? It's the liquor, like if we wanted to revoke the license, is that in the hands of the Liquor Control Board?
Well, we have a period of 45 days from the date of application to render a decision. I believe the application was made on the 27th of February, so really there wouldn't be enough time to approve and then try to come back and revoke that approval.
I mean, like if there were problems, like Chief describes.
That would be up to LCD. It's out
That would be under
after
that. There would be enforcement.
Actually, it'd be called the LCE now, Liquor Code Enforcement.
One other comment that I was thinking too, if it becomes a problem, they're going to lose their business because lots of other people aren't going to go there. Yes, sir.
Could I follow up with what the councilman said?
Yes.
Every year, whenever the renewals come due for liquor licenses in the municipality, the chief of the local municipal police department is sent a letter outlining in a form to say, have you had any problems with this licensee? And so before a license is renewed, local police have an input into whether there's issues with a license. And quite frankly, if there's enough issues with a license during a license period, the PLCB will hold what's called a non-renewal hearing. And basically hold a hearing saying, why should we let you continue to operate given this set of facts? So that there is local input into after the license is issued.
Thank you.
Zach.
I just had, Mr. Kelly had a question earlier about getting input from other police chiefs, and I just wanted to say that given the time constraints that we would have on approving this, there really isn't time to have that happen and come back.
I didn't know the time.
Yeah, and even if we were to get an extension, the law is clear that it can only be extended from 45 to 60 days, which would still put us outside of the window. And Rosie, you had asked earlier about this standard.
Yes.
I, of course, misplaced my report that I gave everyone last week, that I emailed to everyone, but essentially, yeah, an appeal would be through the local agency law, and we would want to have essentially, if we were, say we denied the request, they appealed to the Commonwealth Court, we would have to show, we would have, the burden would be substantial evidence, and it would have to be some definitive evidence that the license would adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. And the case law has been clear that it has to be more than speculation. There has to be some sort of factual evidence as opposed to opinion testimony.
Madam Mayor, I was just going to echo what you said. If anything terrible would happen at any one Sheetz unit, that's going to reflect on every unit that they own. So they have a pretty high standard, I think, that they have to meet. More so than maybe one owner of an individual bar who's got one unit that could be affected. I haven't heard anything tonight to say that there is some great problem just behind the door that's going to happen to us. So again, I would echo what you said. I think Sheetz has been a very responsible business entity in our community, and we'd like to see them continue here.
Sure. Yes, sir. Would you go to the microphone and state your name, please?
Ralph Janko, J-E-N-K-O, 921 Walnut Street. I'd just like to support the move that Sheetz is trying to do with the getting the liquor license. I look at all of the safety procedures that they have in place, and I would ask council to reflect on all of the other establishments in Latrobe that sell liquor, including Fox's Pizza Den, which is now about 150 yards away from a brand new elementary school. Reflect on their security measures against what you have heard that Sheetz is going to be doing, and see if they even come close to the standard that Sheetz is doing. If you were doing a review of all the liquor licenses in the city, including the one that Sheetz is looking at, you wouldn't find Sheetz at the bottom of the list saying, this is the worst case performer, from a point of view of what they are doing to prepare to safely provide this kind of convenience to the community. I also look at the fact that part of the plans that I guess we have is for a totally new facility. And it's quite true, as Jim mentioned, all it takes is about a half acre of land outside of Latrobe, and the new facility can be built there, while they continue to use the Latrobe facility until the new one is built. So I think the risk of flight from the community is, while it's not necessarily guaranteed, it's something I don't think we really need in light of the flight that we've seen of a number of our other businesses in the community. We don't need to visit. I just see the safety issues that Sheetz has put in place just far eclipse anything else in the community. And if you want to really go and look at somebody who's worried about, oh, children are going to be close to the beer, take a look at the Fox's Pizza place, out there at the Don Shopping Center. There is a much higher risk there, I believe, than you would find anything at Sheetz.
Thank you, Mr. Jenko.
Was council provided a handout? I think we should probably mark that as Exhibit A and put it on the record so we have a complete record.
And a blueprint?
That would be B then.
Exhibit A, Exhibit B.
Exhibit A.
Yes, we want to make sure that she stays in Latrobe and grows and thrives. It's in everyone's best interest. And as Mr. Janko said, you have been a very responsible neighbor, and we appreciate that. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. And now we'll move on to the April 9th, 2018 Latrobe City Council meeting and ask that, wait, did you guys want to go? And ask that everyone stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would ask for a moment of silence to give thanks, to ask for guidance, or to just quietly relax. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Bouton.
Mr. Forrest?
Here.
Mrs. Weller? Here. Mr. Kelly?
Present?
Mr. Murtha?
Here.
Mr. Bartel?
Here.
Mr. Bonnier?
Here.
Mayor Wolford?
Here. At this time, I would ask for approval of the minutes from the March 12th, 2018 meeting.
Madam Mayor, I move the minutes of the March 12, 2018 meeting be approved and accepted and be permitted to remain on Secretary's desk where they will be available for reading and inspection to anyone.
Thank you, Mr. Murtha. May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Baldneri. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, I'll ask for approval of the fiscal department reports and paid bills for the month of March 2018.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bartels. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, we have the citizens' request portion of the meeting, but on the first thing I would like is we have a representative here from Excella Health to update council on the plans for Latrobe Hospital. Mr. Al Novak. Welcome, Al.
Thank you very much.
Cheryl at some point.
Oh, yeah, okay. Go ahead. Carol, do you want to do yours first? Okay, go ahead, Al.
Fine, either way.
That's okay.
Mayor and members of council, thank you for inviting me here tonight. I'm very pleased to be with you. Many of you would know Ron Lott from Excella Health. With his retirement, Excella asked me to step in and become the point of contact for elected officials, and I agreed to take that responsibility on. I've been with Excella about a year and a half, and I originally came on to lead Excella's foundation, including Latrobe Area Hospital Charitable Foundation. So I was really raised in the area of philanthropy, and my personal philosophy about philanthropy is that strong philanthropy follows from strong relationships, and I'm taking that into this new role. I believe that strong relationships and trust lead to strong partnerships in the community and with our government leaders. I'm committed to building that trust and communicating well with you, and I understand that a big part of communicating means listening. I won't pretend that I have all the answers, but I will do my best to find them. We do believe that the best thing that could happen to our hospital system is a growing population in this community, the number of employers growing in this community, and we will be prepared to take care of all of our new citizens as best we can. I just have a quick update, and then I'm happy to take any questions that you have. You know that Excella Square, Latrobe, is open, and it's doing very, very well. But the most important thing, I think, for you is that it's having a very positive impact on the Latrobe Hospital. Our admissions rates are up 2% each month since Excella Square Latrobe opened. We've got 268 new admissions coming just out of the residency practice alone, and 217 out of the Excella Health Medical Group, which is located in Excella Square. So that's good. Excella employs just over 1,000 people just in Latrobe, and we believe, as best I can see right now, we're generating about $719,000 per year in employment tax revenue for the city. And
As of February, we have 131 Excel employees living in Latrobe. A couple of other pieces of news. The Family Medicine Residency Program, which was really created in Latrobe Hospital, is a kind of joy to the entire system. But that Family Medicine Residency just won the Baldwin Award. And that award is for instilling humanism in medicine. I'll call it the Best Bedside Manner Award. But we were #1 in the nation. We're going to be really putting this word out and publicizing it more in the coming months. The reason this matters so much to us is this residency is our pipeline to attracting family medicine physicians into this community and into the hospital system. There are a lot of hospitals struggling all around the country to find general practitioners and family medicine docs, and this residency has really given us a close look at those who do want to go into it. We have 24 residents studying at our hospital. It's a 3-year program, so we've got 8 per year. These residents are mostly living in Latrobe in housing that Excel provides. And to help promote to the idea of keeping these residents in Latrobe after they finish the program, we launched the program, and many of you are aware of the Latrobe Area Hospital Aid Society. We've been doing joint programming with them, the foundation and the Aid Society, to help introduce these students to the broader Latrobe community. So the Latrobe Hospital, if you've been into Excella Square, I know you've walked out and said, wow. Our next goal is for you to walk into Latrobe Hospital and come out of there and say, wow. Last year, with the help of the foundation, we remodeled the 5th floor of the hospital. This summer, we will be doing the 4th floor, and next summer, we'll be doing the 3rd floor. We would have done them all at once, but we needed a place to take care of our patients. So again, we will have those 3 floors remodeled. The outpatient center, which was on the lower level next to the emergency room, that's on our target list for a next project. We haven't quite figured out what that's going to be, but that's where many of the outpatient services were located before they were moved to the new building. But we will be taking full advantage of that space, so we'll be keeping patients here in the hospital. We also are looking down the road at upgrading the operating rooms in the hospital. In terms of the exterior of the building, I think you've already heard that the Latanzio parking garage is going to be coming down. It's our intention to keep the Latanzio name associated with that space because I know a lot of people wanted to honor John Latanzio years ago when that building went up. We will also green that space, and we actually have quite a plan put together in terms of greening that entire campus. I don't know what the budget is around that yet, but once we get closer to actually
Okay, moving on, committee reports. Finance, we don't have nothing right now. Public safety and fire.
Jim's been out of town. We haven't had a chance to get the chief ready.
Okay, public works.
Nothing to report at this time. We're due to meet next month. We have 17.
Personnel, we had a couple meetings, but we're going to meet in executive session tonight to discuss personnel issues. Do you guys have anything else on personnel? Events committee?
There was a walk this past weekend. I wasn't able to come. I don't have anything else to report.
I gave your email address to the
I saw this
person. So,
yeah.
okay. And Jack, Jill, the showcase?
Yeah, I talked to Superintendent Swagger. Actually, I emailed her. Yeah, we are going to present the award at the May, I believe, 11th meeting.
Okay.
And I'll get the resumes to Chief Boomar and Eric. I believe you wanted to be on that too.
Okay, so good, I'll add Eric to that. Okay, board and authority reports, any board and authority reports? Eric, have you made it to, have they had a meeting yet? Library board?
Next week
Okay.
will be the first one, I think.
And you've been to, yeah, nothing else will tonight? Okay, department reports, Mike's off ill. Chief Bumar?
Nothing to report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Chief Brazili?
Nothing else.
And Ann?
Yeah, report.
Okay, Zach, you're up.
First item on the agenda is to approve or disapprove Sheets' request for an intermunicipal liquor license transfer into the city of Latrobe. I have two resolutions prepared, one approving, one denying. So the appropriate act to take right now would be to make a motion to approve a resolution, and it would either be to approve or deny the request from Sheets.
So, do I have someone who wants to make a motion?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor. And my motion would be that we approve the request of Sheets for the intermunicipal transfer of the liquor license.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Baldneri. Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Piton?
Mrs. Weller? I don't know if I'm allowed to make comments.
Well,
This time.
before we voted, but
I just want to, going to, you can strike it or whatever you have to do if you want to. I just want to thank the chief for his information, and I think as a city that we need to read between the lines of what he's trying to tell us, and I think Sheets needs to sort of open their ears a little bit too with that. However, I am going to say yes from a business perspective, and we will be keeping our eye on things to see where things go. Thank you.
Mr. Bartels?
I vote yes also.
Mr. Murtha?
No.
Mr. Forrest?
No.
Mr. Baldmeri?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
yes.
Approved. 5-2.
Got to make sure I give you the right one. Wouldn't want you to sign the wrong one. All right, next item on the agenda, we have motion items coming up, so this is a motion item. And before we begin, since we're through with the Sheets application, we can excuse the court reporter so she can go
Yes,
home.
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you folks too for coming in.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a motion item. It's a motion to authorize the advertisement of the solicitation of bids to be addressed by council at the May 14, 2018 meeting for the replacement of the roof on the City of Latrobe Municipal Building.
May I have a motion, please, to authorize the city to advertise?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item on the agenda is again a motion item. It's a motion to authorize the advertisement of the solicitation of bids to be addressed by council at the May 14, 2018 meeting for the replacement of the air conditioning and heating system for the City of Latrobe Municipal Building.
May I have a motion to authorize the city to advertise for bids?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bartels. May I have a second, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item on the agenda is another motion item. It's a motion to authorize the advertisement of the solicitation of bids to be addressed by council at the May 14, 2018 meeting for the repair of the compactor at the City of Latrobe transfer station.
May I have a motion to authorize the city to advertise for bids?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Weller. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Again, this is another motion item. It's a motion to authorize the advertisement of the solicitation of bids to be addressed by council at the May 14, 2018 meeting for the replacement of the compactor at the City of Latrobe transfer station.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I got confused. That was number 5, 4 and 5, okay. Because there were 2 transfer station things then.
Yes. The next item is a motion to authorize Gibson Thomas, the city engineers, to advertise for the solicitation of bids for the 2018 hot mix paving program.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Baldner. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Bartels. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item on the agenda is an ordinance. This ordinance is entitled, "An Ordinance to the City of Latrobe, County of Westmoreland, and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, authorizing the leasing of the First Ward playground to the Latrobe GLSD Parks and Recreation Commission." Specifically, this ordinance would approve the lease agreement that was previously prepared and provided to council, and authorizes the mayor to execute the same.
May I have a motion to authorize the city to enter into this lease agreement?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city to enter into this lease agreement as outlined by the solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. Bartels. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions? Ms. Piton?
Mr. Baldner?
Yes.
Mrs. Weller?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Bartels?
Yes.
Mr. Murtha?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes.
3-7.
Moving over to the police department. This is a resolution item. The resolution is entitled, "Authorizing the city manager to sign grant documents relative to the $80,000 DUI grant for the purchase of new bulletproof vests." This resolution would approve the entering into the grant and applying for the grant, and authorizing the city manager and secretary to complete the necessary documentation.
May I have a motion to authorize the application?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Any questions?
Mr. Murtha?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Bartels?
Yes.
Mrs. Weller?
Yes.
Mr. Baldner?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes.
3-7.
The last item on the agenda for action is a resolution, and it is entitled, "Authorizing the city manager to sign grant documents relative to the 2019 and 2018 impaired driving grant." The resolution does exactly what the title says.
May I have a motion to authorize the application?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion?
Mrs. Weller?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Baldner?
Yes.
Mr. Murtha?
Yes.
Mr. Bartels?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes. Hey, Holly, there's a folder underneath your stuff where I paid the bills.
Oh.
And that's my folder, and it has my notes in it, and I can't. Things here for unfinished business or finished business, like, I'm sorry. Okay, that's it for agenda items. Does anyone have any unfinished business? Okay, I have a question. Anyone have any unfinished business besides me? I have a question about the 14 East Madison Street property that we were getting CDBG money. At one point, we talked about the land bank acquiring it. Whatever happened to that?
We asked them back in 2014, and they haven't acquired it yet. We're not trying to acquire that property. We just want to tear the building down. They can debate about who owns it or who wants to own it. We're basically trying to tear down an unsafe building.
Okay.
And CDBG is, concurs, it basically it's our money, city-wise, city monies to use for that purpose.
Are we going to try and get that money back somehow?
Well, it's not our money, it's federal money.
Because I think, well, I have a note here. The land bank ran the title search and had both RACW and Westmoreland County Land Bank solicitors weigh in on a strategy to acquire and code at land bank with Tax Claim Bureau. I just wondered why that was all, why we did that, or what?
I don't know what they were doing. We went to CDBG and we talked to them about 2 months ago, but because this house is unsafe, if you walk in, you can see through the floor and you can see through the roof. And we have a concern about kids being in the building. So we asked CDBG if we could use their money to tear it down.
Yeah, I guess, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I guess I'm wondering, I feel like that we may have had some communication breakdown between us and the land bank, if they spent the money to do the title search, and I just, I just don't want us to be wasting resources.
But that was 2014?
Well, that I don't know. That's not what that's
It
not.
went on our list in 2014 with land bank.
That I can't answer.
I believe I've got some documentation that talks about early in either late 2015, early 2016, where they did do some research, but that's as far as it went.
Yeah.
So I remember talking to Ann about this property.
Oh, long time. We've been
Right,
talking about it for a
right.
very, very long time. I guess I'm just wondering, somehow,
Is there any issue about going onto the property to demolish the house?
No, it's not not from a safety point of view, no.
No, but I mean, the current owners.
Well, that's what I'm trying to work on now. The current owners are deceased,
Okay, so we're not sure yet at the moment. Who-
and the no estate was open.
Okay.
So I think I found the way to do it quickest, get the heirs to sign some denunciations, and then we'll probably have to have letters of administration granted to someone friendly to accept service, so we don't run into lien problems down the road from DPW or other organizations.
So there's an ownership issue that has to be resolved.
Yeah, and that's why this hasn't been dealt with. This was put on my radar probably about a year or so ago, and it would have been dealt with sooner, but it's just a quagmire dealing with a property where the owners died. There are heirs, but no estate was open.
do you remember any of this?
I remember all of it.
So what can you share?
Not much more. I mean, I was hoping it would go for sheriff's sale, then land bank would be able to acquire it, but
They're in the same boat as
yes.
nobody can buy it until we know the
Zach
owners.
said, when there's no estate, no responsible ownership, it's very difficult for anyone, us and or land bank to have possession of this property. But we can't tear it down for safety reasons.
Right. Yeah, our issue is, I'm not concerned so much about the property ownership. My concern is we have a building that's falling down and kids potentially are playing in there. We boarded it up, but you know how that is.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
boards disappear and the kids reappear.
No, I'm fine with getting it torn down. I just,
Yeah, as far as ownership, I don't think the city, I mean, from my point of view, as far as, because it's federal money, I really don't care who ends up owning it. It's better as a vacant lot than as an unsafe house.
so that brings up another issue that I wanted to bring up to council on unfinished business, the lot on 600 Main. So that's the old, right above the tracks, as you're going up Main Street on the left-hand side, was an old twinny building that was falling down. Land bank took ownership and demolished that and have been trying to sell it.
Is it listed with some?
Yeah.
On that corner, on the other side of Lincoln.
There was a sign up, I think.
There was a sign, yeah.
Talking about a real sign.
Trying to see, okay, so the question is, does the city, they're at the end of we are to sell this within 3 years as part of the terms of the grant, and it will be 3 years this fall. CDBG paid for the demolition of the structure. So the question is, does the city want the property, or their other option is what they did down by Latanzio's, and that's to get, a green, what do they call it?
When you say we had to sell it, who signed, who?
The land bank.
No, we had somebody had 3 years to sell it.
The land bank.
Okay, so they didn't. So
They did not sell it.
Okay.
Yes. The land bank is to sell it for 3 years as part of the terms of the grant, their grant, and it will be 3 years this fall. So they've been trying to sell it, let's see, I'm trying to be creative, this was from April Copus, I'm trying to be creative with the vacant lot at 600 and trying to see if I can secure a small breeding budget from leftover grant money and new grant money. If so, we would need to donate to a nonprofit for eligibility. And remember, that it's still taxable if it's a nonprofit, because that property down by Latanzio's is a taxable property, even though that it's owned by, I think Adelphi has taken ownership of that. Does the city want the property, or do you want me to reach out to a nonprofit for eligibility?
Well, if we take it, we don't pay taxes on it, so it's not a cost issue. There's no structure, there are no utilities involved.
We have to cut the grass, that's about it.
And we're doing that all the time everywhere.
Right.
My thought would be, why not take it and give us a shot at trying to market it?
Yeah.
I mean, even if we only get 4,000 or 5,000, and it gives us control to try to market it to someone who will pay taxes.
Right, I don't disagree with you, I don't have a problem with that.
So what do we have to pay, if anything, in order to acquire the property from the land bank?
I don't know.
Did they have it listed at 25,000 or something?
No, I don't think they have it.
It was not that.
It was a lot of money to demolish, from what I understand, but.
Land Bank has donated to different townships now
Yeah.
for $1.
Yeah,
They sold it for
I don't think they're looking to make a profit off the city,
Okay.
so I'll find out.
My position would be
It was
acquire.
listed for.
It was at the beginning.
Yeah, it wasn't that cheap.
It was a lot at the beginning, and then I think they were just trying to at least, they were trying to get their money back.
Yeah.
At least, get their demolition money back, but they're just.
I mean, I'll be honest, I wouldn't care if we were able to sell it. We did say, here, take the money to cover the demolition costs, if we can get it back on the tax rolls. And that to me is the most important.
Right, and that's what we did with the property down on Ligonier Street. It's back on the tax rolls. Because my understanding is the land bank rules, they have to be, it ends up being taxable. I mean, even if, I don't know all the details, but that was my understanding, is that their goal is to get it back on the tax rolls as well. So, yeah, I mean, we can see what that all would entail. Okay, cool. Sounds good to me. Jim will cut the grass.
Just give me a good riding mower.
Jerry.
I'll go around town.
Okay, anybody else have anything for unfinished business? New business? I just have a question. Did any of you guys see in the newspaper that New Kensington got $23 million grant money?
Who did?
New Kent. Huh?
For what?
I didn't hear what you said.
Yes, we can do.
Yeah.
You mean the city of, or?
The city of New Kensington got $23 million in DCED, I think it was DCED funding, through grants. And I just wonder.
For a company or?
No, for the town.
To do, like to improve it?
Yes, they're for revitalization. They're doing something with their, I talked to a guy from New Kensington, and is there like an old renovation of some kind of a brownfield site, not a brownfield site, but some to revitalize their downtown. And I just wonder.
If it's brownfield mitigation.
It's not brownfield mitigation.
Because that's a different thing.
It's not brownfield
That's what they're
mitigation.
doing over in Hanford.
I guess my point is, why aren't we applying for any of this money? And why don't we know these grants are out there?
There's a lot of grants out there that we don't know about. We're going after the
Multimodal, but there's just, but that's chump change compared to what they got.
I'm not sure what their grants for though. If it's something for, we have a revitalization committee, I'm not sure any grants that I see that are appropriate for that, I was forward.
I just think that we're missing out on an opportunity to get money. I mean, the revitalization committee has probably gotten more money in the last 5 years than the city has in the last 20 in grants. But, and that's one person. So all I'm saying is we just need to be looking for this stuff. And if there's money out there for revitalization efforts,
Well, that may be your answer.
I mean, we
right
don't
there.
know.
So,
That may be your answer.
to find out where they went to find out.
I'll find
about
out. I'll
this
talk to
money?
the mayor of New Kensington and find out
Where they're looking, where they're finding, how can we go to that same place?
My understanding is that that there's that there's information out there on what municipal grants are available, and
It doesn't have to do with like their financial status, or they?
they're not a, what do you call it? Yeah, thank you, Jack. I'll
I
find
think we
out.
have to know what that grant was directed towards. If it's directed toward water
Multiple
restoration or
things.
something,
It's-
that's not something we would be involved in.
It's about, what?
I said, for example, if it were a grant for restoration of water facilities, that's
No,
not something
no.
we would necessarily be looking at. That would be more for LMA.
It
So
basically,
we
yeah.
need to know
it-
what their grant was for.
It was for all I can tell you is their municipal authority didn't get it, their
I understand the city.
city got it. And I'll find out more details about
They
what
might
it's
even
for. I just think there's a
They
lot
might have
of,
hired a grant writer. I mean, we don't know. They might have a grant
Might
writer
be
on their payroll.
only for third-class citizens.
I get that, but I get, you guys, I mean, I guess we're missing the point. I mean, I just think we're missing out on opportunities to get grant money, that's all.
There's a book out there that tells you where all them grants is.
And there's
And that may be
websites
so,
and
but you
everything
can't tell that just by looking at someone else got a grant without looking into the why, the wherefore, and the how comes. Maybe
Listen, I'm gonna tell you
they qualify
something.
for grants, we wouldn't.
And they don't have any.
We're not filing for any, hardly at all. That's my point. So, okay, I'll find out. I just think there's missed opportunities, that's all. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I just looked on the news and it was for blight.
Blight? We don't have any blight in Latrobe, do we?
We have a blighted area called Mary Street. We have a blighted area called Mary Street, but we don't have any other areas designated as blighted. Mary Street is that grant that.
Then we need to look, then we need to change what
We
we
certainly
consider
can look at
blighted.
that.
Do you think that's the only place we have that's blighted?
Well,
Okay, well, I'm just saying, let's just.
And we have to be careful,
Be
because we
aware.
can't compare blight to revitalization that we've done so far on Main Street, so we wouldn't want to intertwine that and say there's blight there.
No, but there's, no,
You know what I'm
but
saying?
I guess, yeah, blight, is blight have to be like a block, or can blight be a building?
That yellow building.
Yeah, like 333 Main, isn't that blight? I mean, okay, all right. Anybody else, any other citizens' requests? No?
Has anybody talked to the new owners of the school to see what actually they're going to do with all?
Oh, yeah, to Jim's point, yes.
I had asked for an executive session for real estate, and two things.
Yeah, we're gonna go into executive session. I think we'll just do the city manager's report and the mayor's report, and then we'll go into executive session, and then we'll just come back to adjourn. Or can we adjourn first?
You can adjourn and go.
You can adjourn.
Okay.
So long as you tell at the next meeting what.
Hey, that is not your role, that is his role.
It's okay, maybe this day would come.
Okay, so, city manager's report.
No report at this time.
I have nothing else at this time, so I ask for a motion to adjourn. May I have a second, please? Okay, meeting adjourned, and we'll go into executive session. I got this thing from CD.